Hello everybody. In this video, we've called this video the Ark Zen Paradigm because here we're going to show you how we actually perform double entry bookkeeping. So what we have here is we have two books. If I have a look over here, I've got this book which we call the capture book. Okay, that's one workbook, and the other workbook over here is called Phoebe. Okay, so what actually happens here is that Phoebe does all the output. So it maintains the unified database, it maintains multidimensional interrogation, and it runs all the output, runs all the journals. Okay, over here on this side, we have all the capture. Now we're going to focus on the capture side in this particular video, but we're also going to show you that it does tie up. You just press F10, only takes a few seconds to actually run the process and gives you all your output. Okay, but the work actually happens here. And what we've done, if you look at a normal system, you would have a payroll over here, you do certain kinds of capture, you'd go back to your payroll, that would have certain kinds of capture, you go back to banking, there's a way to do banking, but we've collapsed this all into one system. Even if you're running a separate fixed asset register, we simply import all the transactions, additions and disposals. We import them so that we can run everything in this unified system, and it allows for macro journals, which you'll see in the near future is very, very powerful. So what we're going to do now in this one is we're going to take you through 4 different types of data. We're going to go through banking, and then we're going to go through invoicing, and then we're going to go through expenses, and finally fixed assets. So we're going to show you these different types of ways of doing the data and how brilliant this is. Now that leads me to one point here, and that is the value of Excel. Some people will say, oh, it can't be good because it's Excel. Now I understand where that comes from. There's a lot of Excel programs that are very poor in-house and they're quite crappy, okay, but it doesn't have to be, and in this case it's not. Excel is the perfect vehicle to do what we want to do. Remember, we're talking small business here, and we're talking people capturing 10-man payroll, or we're talking, a certain number of invoices, and that it's absolutely perfect. And when it's written solidly, Excel is incredibly powerful. It's $1 billion program, and you can actually manipulate. And what I invite you to do is to say, how would you improve it? The work that you're seeing here is the work that has to be done. People need to understand that it's not the code. The code is the bricks. You've got the architecture is the design, and the actual code is the implementation of that design. And Excel does a perfect job of implementing our design. So anyway, we'll have a look at it. So let's start with our first mini app, which is banking. Okay, now what we have here is we bring through from your online banking, we're going to go like Control A, knock it into shape a little bit, and then we're going to bring it through into an Excel file, and then we can take it from here. Now here's where you have your bank accounts. I've only got the one bank account for this data, so I'm going to click on here, and then I'm going to go back. Now I just want to show you, if I look at my history here, okay, and I've got it, okay, one little step back, I've got to just press F3, and when you run this yourself, you can run a few entries, press F3, start again. And so F3 takes you back to a known starting point for this evaluation system. So now I'm going to come back to history, and you see I've got here 1920. Okay, that will be important. Okay, and we run the journals here showing you the batch that's come through and how we get to a new total. So you'll see how that comes about. So now we're going to click on the batch. Okay, now what actually happens, we're pulling this through, we cut out from your online banking, and we run down to the last date and balance that we had for this account, and now we create a batch out of this. Now what comes out of the online banking is quite crummy because it's actually in a sort of vertical column rather than a nice grid. You can't get a nice grid, and if you can get a grid, but then you lose certain information. So this is the best way to do it. So but we do all that for you. Now the other aspect is we have to be able to link this Kim and counterparty here together. They form the link that you need to get to the right account. Okay, and that's what you need. You need to code everything in here, match it back to the right counterparty. But we do that for you. We do it on setup. Half of it's done on setup, and then what we do is we if we get a few coming through here and we don't have the right items, we will actually sort that out for you. That's the benefit of us being your bookkeeper. So all you have to do is do this. So now we're ready to go. Click here. We're going to click on here, and now we do bank submitted. Okay, and now we can see here it's come through. You can see all the ones in white here are the new ones. We come back to here, go to our journals, and you can see we had the 1920, we added on a negative number, so we're now sitting on 1914. Okay, and that's all we have to do. That's our banking, and you can rely on us to make sure all the coding is 100%. So now we're going to click here. Now what we want to do, the next one we want to go to is customer invoices. So now we're going to go and do an invoice. Okay, and again, let's just have a look at our history. Okay, 9,120,000. Okay, let's leave him. Okay, click here and journals. Okay, right. So there we go. We're sitting there. Okay, so now I come back to my batch. So first thing I have to do is select a customer. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to select Kate Blanchett. Okay, and now I have to type in a few items. That's my purchase order and the date. Okay, you can use this quick device. You can punch straight into the date, but it's quicker if you just use the 20 and rely on the period number here to tell you which month you're in. So now I'm going to click here. Now I have to do my selection of my products. So I'm going to go here, click there, click here, and go there. And now I've got my products. Once I've got my products, I click here, come back to here. Now I'm going to change these quantities. I'm going to make this 80, I'm going to make that 40, and I'm going to make this 70. Okay, 70. And now all I do is I click here, and that gives me, so it's 134,000 is this particular invoice. And then I just right click here, and now I've got my invoice, and my invoice comes through like this. Now this particular layout, we can design this for you. We can modify it any which way you want. Okay, it'll work the same way, but just with different content if you want to change that. Okay, and now we're ready to do the submission. So once you're happy with it, you press F5. Okay, and then that will submit the invoice. Okay, and if I come down here now, you can see the 134,000 that I've added in there. That was the invoice that we did. If I come back here now to my journals, and I can come back here and I go to my journals, and I had the 1920 at 9120, and now I've got 134,000 added on here, and that's how we do that one. Okay, right. So now we're going to come back to expenses. Okay, and it's the same thing. Let's look at our history. Okay, we've got 219 at 474. And what we're going to do here now with the expenses, we don't want to send every single little expense item as a batch to the cloud. We're going to accumulate them. So they're going to accumulate in this item down here called block. So I'm going to go here now. We pick on, say, this is we're paying Bookkeepers Anonymous. The amount was 5,000. We calculate the VAT for you and just put in the date here, and then we put in the document number 11004. Okay, and now we're going to go click here, save, and I'm going to go save and come back here. And I'm going to do another one. I'm going to go to chairs. Okay, I'm going to put in 10,000. Okay, it calculates that 20th. Okay, and 2514254. Okay, click save. Come back to save, and now we'll do a final one. Okay, batch, and I'm going to come back to here. Dunkirk armatures. Okay, 20,000. Okay, 20. Okay, 507. Okay, and now go click here, invoice side, and now we come out of here, and we can now go back to the block. And now we have a block, and now we have these three. Now we say we're ready to send that block to the cloud and to save it. So now I'm going to right click over here on this one, expense batch saved. Okay, come out of here. I can come back to my history. If I come down to the bottom now, remember that was 474. Now we've added on 35,000, takes up to that figure there, and you can see this in the journal calculation here, the journal grouping, and now we come up to 509. Remember that number 509 because we'll we'll see that on the Phoebe side now shortly. And then the last one we're going to do for this exercise is we're going to come back to our fixed assets. So here we've got a fixed asset invoice, and so again, let's have a look here. Let me go back to the assets here. The history. Okay, we've got the three items that we've bought during the year so far. Okay, now we go back to our journals. There's the 80,000. Okay, so now that's where we start. That's our starting point. Okay, come back to additions. Come back to batch here. Okay, now this is a list of our fixed asset creditors. So I'm going to pick on a particular fixed asset creditor. I'm going to pick on Game of Thrones. We're going to type here 13,000. Okay, and now that number count is very important. That tells us how many assets are on this invoice. So we need that. We're going to stick with 3. Come back to here. Okay, and now we come back to here. 1122, and okay, there we go. And now instead of trying to save this, we're going to click here and expand it into a grid that contains the actual assets. Now we've pre-populated this for speed. Okay, but you would actually overwrite this with, you know, if it's a spade or a washing machine or whatever it is that you're actually buying. But now what we have to do is code it. So we click on code here. Now we get this list of items. I can click on furniture, and I'm going to click on a chair, and I'm going to code it to a chair. I'm going to go to equipment. I'm going to go to photocopiers. I'm going to click on a photocopier, and then I'm going to go to a computer, go to a laptop, and click on a laptop, and then I've done that. So now I've coded each of these items. We understand what they mean in terms of how we're going to do our fixed asset calculations. Okay, now there's one other thing that we want to do here. We don't like having 4 and 5 of a particular number. We want to flatten those to 1 so that we control each asset. So if one gets broken or one gets stolen, we can know how to handle that particular item. So I'm going to go click here, and it does the expansion for me. And now I can go click here, and it writes it away. Addition submitted. Okay, and there we've got that. That's the invoice level that we've got over here. And if I come out of here and I come back to assets and I come back to asset history, now I get the individual. These are the 10 items, fixed asset items that I've added. Now we come back to here, and there's my journals, and I've added 13,000. Now in this time that we've done here, we've done 4 different types of asset, and we've shown how these things can actually be controlled and how they all work. So I think we're in a very strong position here. And how well do you think Excel performed? I think it performed brilliantly, and we've got everything like this. So people are sitting around the world firing it off. It's all going to the cloud, and it gets replicated wherever it's needed. So I think we have a very, very powerful system here. Now let's go and have a look at our Phoebe. I'm going to refresh him here just to update so that it takes into account all of that. And then we're going to press the F10 key. Now this, we say under 10 seconds, but you'll see now it only takes about 2 seconds, and you can see it 3 seconds to actually run on our machine. Obviously it depends exactly what you're dealing with. Now I just want to go and show you a couple of these numbers. If I come back to sales, you'll remember we added 134,000, should give you about 2,000, okay, 9,200,000, and we can see here 9,254. So there we've got our sales there. Okay, if I come back to my expenses, here's my expenses. Okay, and that was the 509. I said try and remember that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our output here. We're going to go back to our financial reports, journal interrogation, and journals. And here we're going to look at our journals. I remember the 1914, we group them, we group our journals specifically so that it gives us good quality information. So that is our cash flow. That whole block there is our cash flow. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to come down on income before tax. Okay, and you can come down to here. There's my sales, 9254, and over here we have expense invoices at 509. So now we've actually done, you can see all of this coming through exactly what we had over there, comes through these journals, and these are the journals that populate all the reports, and then the reports are instant. After you've done that F10 key, everything else will just be, as you click on it, you get that report. So that is now showing you how this how it lines up. So what you've seen here is we've done items through the capture book, and this is how it gets controlled in the output system for Phoebe. And I think it's a very powerful system. And then what we do as your bookkeepers, we monitor this on a daily basis. And if anything looks a bit out to us, we'll signal you one way or another. If it's small, we'll just signal the operator. When it gets a bit bigger, we'll give an indication to the owner. And finally, we'll send you a critical email to say, hang on a sec, you've got to pay back tomorrow. If you don't pay it, you're going to have a fine. So we're going to be helping you control all of that information. And I think it's a very powerful system. Thanks for your time.